What makes a toilet flush this way versus this way? And how is it that keeping this thing and this thing separate is basically the equivalent of never standing in line for anything for the rest of your life? Today, we're delving into that, plus 4 other weird facts about toilets. But first, let me share with you the slightly embarrassing story of how I found myself delving deep into the bowels of the internet to excrete some juicy facts about this underappreciated yet amazing fixture, the humble toilet. I'm 47, and it wasn't until just this year that I noticed for the very first time while standing in front of the toilet that there appears to be maybe a little slope to the rim of the toilet. The toilet itself, perfectly level, but the rim slopes inward. I'll let you use your imagination to guess how I noticed this, but let's just say I'm not exactly an expert marksman. But being a die-hard DIY guy, I always carry a torpedo level, and sure enough, there it is. A roughly 3 to 5 degree inward slope. The toilet itself, perfectly level, but all of these rims slope inward. That means somebody somewhere along the line, decades ago probably, thought, if stray liquids are gonna end up here, let's give them a little nudge to help them end up in there. Genius. Now, allow me to present the Baja Blast demo. Mix 10 parts Baja Blast with 1 part yellow food coloring. Okay. It's such a simple little design tweak that somebody incorporated into this, but it saves us a lot of cleanup over the years. It was that one little discovery that made me think, what else don't I know about the toilet? And as it turns out, a lot. So here's another thing. Almost nothing in my house is made out of porcelain anymore other than toilets and maybe some certain sinks in the house. And that got me thinking, why aren't toilets made out of metal, for example, or plastic? I mean, it's the 21st century and pretty much everything else is. Well, if your toilet is metal, there's a good chance that you're watching this video from prison. I mean, can inmates actually watch YouTube? Is that like maybe a reward for reaching your quota of license plates? Anyway, for the rest of us, it's porcelain for the win. And let me tell you exactly why. It's cheap, it's strong, it doesn't stain easily, despite our body's best efforts, but maybe more important than all of this, it's slippery. Really slippery. I actually bought a brand new toilet just so I could cut it in half and check out the insides. Yes, I got a little dirty in the process, but it was all in the name of engineering and I think you're worth it. So what I found is that porcelain glaze covers every single surface that our waste might even come in contact with, even the entire length of the trapway inside, which is its own bit of genius all by itself. That glaze, by the way, is sprayed on at the factory, then the whole thing gets fired at about 2200 degrees Fahrenheit in a giant kiln. The heat turns into a glass hard surface, making it super smooth and basically waterproof. That slipperiness is the secret. It makes it really easy for waste to slide right on through, and it makes it really difficult for bacteria and germs to stick onto this surface. And get this, even with all of that, porcelain toilets are still incredibly cheap. You can walk into a Home Depot today and pick up a brand new porcelain toilet for under $100. Not bad for something that'll literally only get replaced in most cases because it's kind of gone out of style and they want a better looking one. Fun fact, the very first flush toilets way back in the 1500s weren't made out of porcelain at all. They were actually made out of wood with lead lining. Sounds like a total pain in the butt. It wasn't until the late 1800s that we started to see porcelain take over in the toilet industry. And that's something that hasn't really changed much at all, even today. All right, let's clear up one of the biggest myths out there. Toilets are disgusting, right? They're filthy. Well, compared to your kitchen, not really. Here's the reality. The inside of your toilet bowl is often 100 to 1,000 times cleaner than your kitchen sink. Seriously. A 2011 study found that the average toilet seat has about 50 bacteria per square inch. Your kitchen sponge, on the other hand, up to 10 million. Even your sink drain can have hundreds of thousands of bacteria per square inch. Dr. Charles Gerba, aka Dr. Germ, put it this way: there is more fecal bacteria in your kitchen sink than there is in a toilet after you flush it. Let that one sink in. Pun intended. And if you think about it, it kind of makes sense. Kitchen sinks are constantly hit with food scraps and meat juices, old sponges, dirty rags, perfect breeding grounds for bacteria. Toilets, on the other hand, rinse themselves with clean water every single time they're used. Add in that porcelain glaze, and yeah, they stay surprisingly sanitary. So maybe don't judge the toilet quite so harshly. Now, I'm not suggesting that you go and eat your dinner off of it or anything, but if I had to choose between the toilet bowl here and a kitchen sponge, I think I'd take my chances with the porcelain throne over here. Just a quick side note, I've got yet another toilet right here, Glacier Bay Beauty right here, and this one I have not yet cut in half, and that's because this one's going into the basement that I'm finishing right now. Now, I've finished a lot of basements, and if you've ever tried or known someone who has, you know, it can be very intimidating. There is a lot to it, and for that reason I've come up with a course that will walk you through every single step to make sure that you know exactly what you're doing all along the way. Now, in addition to that, one of the biggest unknowns is how much is it going to cost? So we've put together a series of calculators that helps you to understand the total cost, as well as the cost and the parts that you're going to need for each step along the way. So if you want to learn more about taking that space back, using that basement for more than just storing boxes and junk, then check us out at DIYbasement.com. Now, let's talk about the tank. Why in the world does a toilet even have a tank? Imagine if your sink, for example, had a tank that you had to fill every time you wanted to wash your hands. Seems kind of silly. So why not just let the water connection from the house come directly into the toilet bowl? Well, it turns out there's two very good reasons. The first reason is that it limits the amount of water. A modern toilet tank holds about 1.5 gallons of water, or 6 liters, which is not enough to actually flood your bathroom in just one flush. Now, yeah, we've all had those experiences where you're sitting there panic flushing and you end up getting more than 1.5 gallons of water in there, and that is definitely a nightmare scenario, but as long as you're not doing that, then what's in the tank isn't going to overflow typically, even when the toilet is completely clogged. This is actually where the good old poop knife comes in handy. Now, if you're not familiar with the poop knife, I'm going to leave a link in the description below that you're going to want to check out. And fair warning, you're going to laugh yourself to tears while reading about it, so maybe read it while you're on the toilet so you don't pee your pants. The second reason is gravity. The tank means that the flush power is instant and strong. So that means there's no waiting for pressure to build. You just push the button, the tank dumps, and everything gets whisked away. As an added bonus, you also get consistency because your ball flow or your valve, like that one right there, actually just stops it at the exact right place every single time, so you get a consistent amount of water. That's preventing your bathroom from flooding and turning into essentially a wading pool. Okay, so let's talk about time. Now, remember back at the beginning of the video, I talked about how we can save a lot of time from standing in lines? Well, guess how much time you spend standing in line in your life? All told, all in, we're talking DMV and grocery stores, movie theaters, amusement parks, all that kind of stuff. 5 months of your life. The toilet here, in the 200,000 visits that we make in our lifetime to the toilet, that adds up to about 7 months of our life. So that is also obviously quite a long time. Now here's the thing, when you pair the toilet with your smartphone, which a lot of people do, that's gonna add another 5 months to the amount of time you spend here with the toilet. So if you were to leave your smartphone in your pocket or at your desk or wherever the case may be, you're gonna gain back 5 months of your life that you can use for maybe more productive things. So might be a good idea to leave that phone in your pocket or not. That's totally up to you. Now, just a little side note there, that same Dr. Gerba that we saw earlier, he actually did a study and found that the cell phone has 10 times more germs and bacteria than the toilet seat. So maybe next time you use the bathroom and you're washing your hands, if your phone is waterproof, maybe wash that too, because it's pretty gross. All right, let's get back to where this all started. Why does a toilet flush one direction for some toilets and another direction for other toilets? Now, you've probably heard, just like me, that it depends on what hemisphere you're in. If you're in the northern hemisphere, it's going to flush in one direction, southern in another. And that's due to what's called the Coriolis effect. The Coriolis effect is a very real scientific principle. This affects the direction that tornadoes and hurricanes move, things like that, but they only apply at a massive scale. The Coriolis effect has little to no impact on something as small as a toilet flushing or a bowl of water. Believe it or not, it's these little rim jets. Those little holes under the rim are drilled at an angle. It's the manufacturers that decide which way they point, and that's the way the toilet flushes. That's it. No Coriolis effect, no hemispheres, nothing like that. In fact, if you were to take this toilet right here out of this house in Utah in the United States and move it down to Brazil, for example, where I lived for a couple of years, hooked it up and plumbed it and everything and flushed it, it's going to flush exactly the same in both locations because those rim jets are determining the orientation of the flush. In effect, it's this guy at American Standard, the director of design, or maybe someone on his team who actually determines which direction your toilet is going to flush. On a side note, in my research I found it pretty interesting that a lot of toilets in Europe actually don't flush in one direction or the other. The rim jets point straight down. So I would love to hear in the comments below, tell us where you're from and what direction do your toilets spin. So the next time you push that shiny lever or those number 1 and number 2 buttons on the top of your toilet, remember that you're using one of the most brilliantly simple machines in your house. From the angled rim to the slippery porcelain, from the self-limiting tank to those angled rim jets, it's a little bit of genius that we do our worst to. If you're a curious individual like me, you might want to find out, like I did, why are there little holes in our plug blades? What are they designed for and how do we use them today? I'm Nils with Learn to DIY saying, don't forget to wash your hands and your cell phone and your kitchen sink. And thanks for watching.